Well, welcome to Speaking of Horses. I'm your host, Wayne Williams, and we're ready to go right here with some of the great stories from the horse industry. So join us as we get ready to go Speaking of Horses right here on this station. Well, hey, welcome to Speaking of Horses. And today on the radio show, my guest is Jack Hayfling. Now, Jack is the equestrian chairman with the Indianapolis 500 Festival Committee. And of course, not only is it the Indy 500, but there is the parade and all of the festival activities through the month of May. So, Jack, welcome, and just tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Indy 500 parade, the festival, and the horses.
Well, thank you, Wayne. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. The Indy 500 Festival Parade has been in existence for many years. I think it goes back to almost the 1950s. So it's been in existence. It's always been built around horses and clowns and bands, and it's just a great time. I started about, almost 20 years ago, maybe 18 years, as chairman of the Equestrian division, which is challenging and fun all at the same time. Trying to manipulate horse units through the parade and all the pre-parade activities, the festivals that are going on, the morning of the parade and the parties, and all of the kids coming in with the bands and the clogged streets and traffic, and it's just exciting. And it's fun trying to get those equestrian units down through all that area to our staging area. So that's really challenging, Wayne, and we do it with the help of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department Equestrian Unit. We actually have horses escorting horses.
Well, that's pretty neat, and you know it is as the morning builds for the parade, for any parade, as the morning builds, you know, the people start arriving. Like you and I were talking earlier, you know that some of the padlocks get unlocked, and you and some other people start showing up like 5, 6 in the morning, you know, to get ready for this noon parade, because there's an awful lot of things logistically that have to be done. And getting all the equestrian units to the area where they're going to have plenty of room to tack up, whether it's harnessing for wagons or saddling to ride, and then get escorted over to a holding area for the parade takes a lot of effort.
It does, Wayne, and the logistics is it's amazing. The behind-the-scenes portion of any parade, whether it's the Macy's parade or the Indy 500 parade or the Rose parade, the logistics and all the preparation behind the parade, whether it's 2 days before the parade or 6 months before the parade, the activity level is just high. The Indy 500 parade, we start planning for this with our volunteer committees, right after Christmas. Usually about the second weekend in January, we get together for the first time for the year. But prior to the holiday seasons, in the fall of that previous year, our full-time staff at the 500 Festival already has a lot of stuff going and a lot of stuff planned, and units have been contacted, and just a lot of busy work and preparation work before our actual get-together in January.
Well, yeah, and you know, you look at it, you've got, you know, hundreds of people that work year-round just in keeping this thing going, and you know, I'm sure you always have, you know, a lot of volunteers who turn over. Some people volunteer for a year or two, and then they don't. So you've always got a huge number of new people that your core that's there every year has to re-educate, so to speak, to make sure that everything flows.
Yes, and specifically with the equestrian units. Before our involvement, and our is defined as the horse industry, before the horse industry's involvement with the volunteer portion of the parade for the equestrian units, it was run by non-horse people, and it was a challenge for them. And our volunteers, 80 to, I'd say, probably 90% of our volunteers, and it's not many. We have about 25, maybe 30 volunteers in our equestrian units. those people are horse people. And we actually have our most experienced horse people, volunteers, walk with those units on the parade route in case anything were to happen. If a horse got, pardon my French, if a horse got squirrely on the parade route, we have experienced people that could do something and handle those horses and
right.
Squelch the situation.
And just,
which is excellent planning. That's risk management.
well, you know, that what I'm thinking about is, and I rode that parade for like 35 years myself on my horse. And certain little things that non-horse people don't understand, like one year we were sandwiched in behind, I think it was Indiana University, used to always bring the big calliope.
Oh, yes.
All right. You really don't want to get the horses too close to that steam-operated calliope, okay? Or Purdue always has their band with that big bass drum. There's a few little things that you just, you just don't do. Even to the most, as you would say, dead broke horse, if you subject them to too much, plus just horses are like people. When the crowd gets there for the parade, the hype comes up. The person with the horse, whether riding or driving, their energy level comes up, but so does the horse. Their energy level comes up. So just don't aggravate it, and you have to understand horses to know that.
Absolutely. And Wayne, I've got to tell you this little story. This is kind of a tongue-in-cheek and a little funny story all in one, but, what goes in one end of the horse must come out the other.
True.
And you mentioned being behind the Indiana University Calliope. Well, one year we had some really neat ladies in. It was a Southern Belle unit from down south, and they had their long, flowing Southern Belle dresses, beautiful dresses, and we had a horse unit in front of them. I don't think I need to say more.
No.
They had a little color change at the bottom of the dresses when the parade was over with. So ever since then, we've been very conscious of keeping the route clear. And in fact, through our 2-block TV zone, which is just off a step up, we have a special unit down there. They're dressed up as IndyCar racers. And they have their little wagon and their shovels and their brooms, and their job is to entertain the crowd and keep the route clear of certain foreign objects.
Right.
And one year we did that. We had a fake styrofoam air freshener bottle. We had a little CO2 cartridge in there, and every time we pick up a foreign object, we just do a little squirt, and the crowd just loved it. They rolled. So.
Well, and you got to make light of it, and you can't help it. But when you look at a parade, and you and I have talked about this, bands, floats, horses, clowns. That makes up a parade, basically. Dignitaries are an important part, but the mainstays are the horse units, the bands, the floats. Those are the mainstays of a parade. And that's what the kids, the kids that are on, they're really getting into the parade are hanging on the fact they're going to see some clowns, they're going to see some horses. The kids are not as much into the floats as they are the horses and the clowns, okay? But there's those things that they just hang on. And let's face it, a parade is, whether you're 9 or 90, it's for the young at heart. If you're 90 years old, it takes you back to when you were 9, and watching a parade. Parades are they're to either make you young at heart or they're for the young. And you got to have those things in there. And the horse units, as much as they offer their own set of difficult circumstances, are a very important part of a parade.
Yes, absolutely. And this parade, the Indianapolis 500 Festival Parade, is the largest parade on Memorial Day weekend across the United States. I believe it's number 3 in television audience of all the parades. I believe Rose Bowl's 1, Macy's 2, and Indy is 3.
I think you're right.
And we are nationally televised. We have a live version going out at the actual parade time, and then we have a retelecast national and international audience later in the evening as those feeds come through the Indianapolis Motor Speedway television network.
Well, it's, it is. You're right. The Tournament of Roses parade, which is 120 years old or something like that now. Then you've got the Macy's parade, which is big, but the Indy 500 parade, which is probably 65 years old or so now, is one of the main parades in the country, and the viewership is great. It's tied to a great event, like the Rose Parade is tied to the Rose Bowl. The Indy Parade is tied to the Indy 500, and it's just got all of the traditions that you could ever want for a parade. And people don't think of it as the third largest in the country, but it is.
And each of the 33 drivers at the Indy 500 will be in the parade. They're in the parade every year. Yep. So the fans get a close-up shot of their favorite driver.
You're right. Well, Jack, we're running slowly out of time. The Indy Parade, the dates for the parade are May 26th, Saturday the 26th. There will be retelecast, obviously, as well as live telecast. I guess the best way to find out exactly where it's going to be in your area, you can go to the Indy 500 site, right? The 500 Festival site, and get TV data?
Yes, absolutely. Those schedules are up there, and you'll learn all about the festival. And we just had the mini marathon, which is the largest mini marathon. And there's a lot of good information on the website. And,
of course, you have the parade, and then the very next day on Sunday, you've got the... This is what, the 102nd or 103rd running? 102nd, I believe.
102nd, yes.
Of the Indy 500, yes. And that caps everything off with the race. And I grew up in Indianapolis, so, I know what a huge crowd that is. But, and it's an enthusiastic crowd. So, Jack, we're about out of time, but thank you for joining us. And if you're an equestrian unit and have interest in being in the Indy 500 parade, contact us at Speaking of Horses. We'll put you in contact with the Indy 500 parade. Well, that's our show. I'm your host, Wayne Williams. Speaking of Horses, we'll be back next week with a brand new show. Or join us at speakingofhorses.com.